Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode. We're the Road to Glory podcast. I'm Juliet.
And I'm Cecilia. And the moment we've all been waiting for is finally here, because F2 was finally back racing, this time in Miami. So, of course, we are here to do a race review.
It was the most insane weekend. If you didn't watch any of the action, don't worry. We will be going through all of the notable points from the weekend. We can't speak about everything because, oh my God, the weekend was literally insane and so much happened. But we will be bringing you the highlights and a little bit of a review how the weekend was. But I just want to say, why have we not had F2 in Miami before? Because the racing was incredible.
It was so good. Honestly, like the one good thing about the other races being cancelled, of course, that's not a good situation, but we got one good thing out of it, and that is that we got F2 in Miami. And we can also look forward to hopefully maybe F2 coming back again in the future, because it very much sounded like from the CEO of F2, like they wanting to go back into the US because obviously it's a big market for one, but also like a lot of the drivers are from this part of the world. So it just makes sense. And we as fans would love to see them go back there.
Exactly, and some of the drivers noted throughout the weekend that the circuit was literally made for
Yeah.
F2 cars. The racing was so close, there was so many overtakes. So, like, I don't see why they wouldn't bring it back. If it's feasible with budget, like, why not add it into the calendar or replace it with something?
Exactly. Like, when did we last have a F2 weekend where we had a battle for the lead between multiple drivers in both races on like the final lap? Like, things were absolutely crazy. And I think we just need to get into all the action because otherwise we'll actually be here for ages.
Exactly. And I will say this practice session was probably the most important practice session that they've had all year because obviously, as we mentioned, they've never been here before. So these drivers are really learning this circuit. Obviously, they've done some work on the sim, but this practice session was probably where they got most of their laps in. I will say, if you had to title the practice session something, it would be What's Going On in the House of Campos. Because what
Yes.
happened there?
Oh my God, like the one practice, as you mentioned, that is so important because they've never been to the track and like both for the drivers to like really get a feel of the track, but also for the teams to gain data for the races. And we have Campos not losing one car, but losing both cars within like, I don't know, 5 minutes or something.
Literally, it was first Noel Leon who had a spin and then brought out the virtual safety car, and then we had Nikola Tsolov stopped on track, causing a red flag. And I was just like, somebody cursed Campos because, like, as you mentioned, this is the most important session, and they literally got no laps done.
No, and like it's just insane that both of them were out because it's not even like Noel Leon crashed and his car was completely done. Like it was so unfortunate with this stupid F2 engine. Like whenever someone spins, it's very likely that they'll lose the engine and then you're just like done because then you need to be pulled off the track. And also, again, with Solop, also not any like visible damage to his car.
No.
It just came just up. So it really couldn't have been any more unlucky and like such a horror start to the weekend. Definitely not a lot to build on, but we'll obviously get to how good it ended for them anyway.
Exactly. And when you're speaking about how good it ended for people, wow. Colton Herta topping the timings in practice was a shock. I mean, like, we know he's got pace in there, but it was just like he's come to play. He's in his home country of America, and he's like, I'm going to show you what I can do. It wasn't the greatest of weekends for him beyond that, but he made a statement in practice.
Yes, I feel like practice with Colton Herta, he really got people's expectations up. For a moment, I felt like, you know what? Maybe we are in America now. He has remembered who he is. And like, he's actually here to show what he got. Definitely positive progress to be topping practice, even though it definitely led to an anticlimactic weekend after that for him.
Definitely. It was not it was a more of a positive weekend. And, you know, we do have to understand he is a rookie. he has to build on each weekend. So I think we could start seeing more of him in the upcoming races. Maybe while we're still in North America or in Canada, we could see something. But it probably wasn't the weekend that he wanted to show a bit more, I feel. I mean, like, you're at home, there's a lot of fans who are there for you. So not the most positive weekend for him.
No, and yeah, as you mentioned, him being a rookie, also like with a completely different background to a lot of the other rookies who are more used to coming from F3 up to F2, and now him coming from IndyCar, completely different ball game. And yeah, who knows what went wrong in qualifying, if he just didn't have the pace, or if the change from medium tires to the super soft tires could also have a play in it. Maybe he wasn't as comfortable on the softer of the two compounds. We obviously don't know. But I guess now we're talking about qualifying. We might as well move on to what actually happened in qualifying.
Yes. I will say something to note about the super softs that a lot of teams were experiencing is they were like, this is not gonna last. We're in Miami. The track is hot and it was eating up those tires that the teams were even worried after quali and like during quali if this tire is gonna last when they have to use it in the race.
Yeah, because it was insanely hot and it really didn't mix well with those super soft tires. That was definitely something we saw in qualifying as well. It wasn't like people were able to keep pushing on the same set of tires.
Yeah.
It was very much just like go out, warm up your tires, do your lap, and then like you have already taken up the best of the tires.
Yes. One thing to note here, I know we speak about this a lot, but Mary Boyer had a full Aston Martin livery, which I feel like we never see. We like I don't think I've seen they Aston Martin like with Jack Crawford, like they usually don't like to put the full livery on the car. No, for Mary Boyer we did. And for Sebastian Montoya, I don't know if we mentioned this last time, we have the OG Prema livery back.
Yes, everyone cheered, especially listeners of this podcast, because we are all very dedicated and love the OG Prema livery. Now, Prema are very much in a downfall era right now, but at least we have the pretty livery on Sebastian's car. And we also did in Australia, which, like, thank you, Sebastian Montoya and Prema, for bringing her back.
Exactly. It wasn't the weekend Sebastian probably wanted because he actually like grew up in Miami. Like this is like a home race for him, and I'm sure he wanted to perform a little bit more than he could have. I mean, he didn't have bad luck per se like a lot of other drivers had. He just had a very mediocre weekend.
Yeah, Prema being pretty low down in the standings as well. Like, it's actually painful to see. Also, before we move on from Prema, with your note on Aston Martin livery on Boya's car, I have to mention, it feels like Aston Martin went, you know what, we're so bad in F1. We need some attention on the Aston Martin livery in F2. Because, like, the whole crazy stat about on the day of qualifying and sprint qualifying for F1, Mary Boyer was the fastest of all the Aston Martin drivers. It's like, that shouldn't be possible.
No, like how is the F2 car faster than the F1 car? Uh, like I was literally gobsmacked when I read that. It's so, I mean, it's so bad we have to laugh about it.
It literally. Also because it wasn't even like Mary Boyer's time was good. Like he was pretty low down the field. So yeah, the Aston Martin F1 team, I know they had like barely a qualifying session in the sprint qualifying. So like they really didn't put in any sort of real time. But like if they had been part of the F2 qualifying, they would have qualified at the back of the field.
Oh my gosh, imagine that is crazy. But back to F2 qualifying, we kind of went with our usual format of F2 qualifying where we have one set of flying laps. We go into the pits and then come out again and do a second set of flying laps. And I will say one thing, I do think your curse is back on Martinez.
Stop. Do we actually have to comment on the elephant in the room already? Like people who are regular listeners to the podcast will know that whoever I pick for like predictions for who is gonna win the drivers' championship will just be immediately cursed for the rest of the season after that. And yeah, I've done it again. I thought it was bad in Australia, But things have just got worse in Miami because he did qualify well. I will take that again. Great qualifying by Martinez. I don't want to talk about what happened in the race.
No, like, it was just I don't we need to study you. I don't know how this happens. Like, he had a great qualifying, he put in some good laps, but he actually, right at the end of the session, he did have smoke coming out of the back of his car. So I was already wary, like, "Whoa, what is happening on here?"
Yeah.
And he did cause the yellow flag, and then qualifying never got resumed because there was only about 1 minute to go. But your curse was already in full swing at the end of
Yeah.
quali. They saw him qualify
Yeah.
P3 and they were like, "No, this is too good."
Exactly.
But we actually got Kush Miney's first pole, which was like a shock. I mean, we know Kush has had pace, but he's one of those drivers who has been very unlucky as well in his years in F2. So to finally get his first pole was a very momentous moment.
Yes, honestly, I was very surprised about that too, because when we had the first runs from people, we had like Rafa setting provisional pole, and
Mm.
then when we got to the second round, it was just like changing every time someone passed the line. And I'm happy for Kush now, obviously. He should probably be in his last season of F2 now, we assume.
Yeah,
Again, it's F2, so we never know. But it was definitely about time for him to take pole position. Also, it was so close between him, Rafa, and then Martinez Denchon. Like, barely anything was separating them. I believe it was like 0.050 seconds between like P1 and P3, which is like nothing.
it was so close with Rafa in P2, Kush in P1, and Martinez in P3. Like, you really couldn't separate them. But really happy for Kush to finally get his first pole.
Yes, very happy for him. Obviously, he didn't have the best of luck when it comes to race, but like he'll take his moment of having that pole position, and it was like really, really well done. Also, looking at what else happened in qualifying, I will say I'll comment on Alex Dunn qualifying P4 because obviously he has that grid drop carried on from Australia, which is like unfortunate for him because he did qualify well. Obviously,
Yeah.
dropped him back quite a bit. I feel like that is an important thing to note because obviously, like, very justified that he got that
Yes.
penalty. Just unfortunate that he had to like carry it from Australia into Miami.
I kind of forgot he had it because it's been
Mm.
such a long time between the races. Like, we do usually see these big gaps, but like, I was like, whoa, why is he, when we came to the
Yeah.
grid, I was like, why is he starting so low down? And then I remembered
Mm.
that in this year of F2, it carries to the feature race, which is the important one to do. But I will say, someone to note in qualifying was Nico Verone. Like,
Yeah.
he came to play. I feel like overall, Nico had a very impressive weekend. Like, we haven't seen too much of him. I feel like he's getting used to this single seater. But he actually qualified, well, P5 when Alex was dropped down, but P6 when Alex was still there. And it was just really impressive.
Yeah, I definitely feel like Nico was like the star of qualifying, kind of, even though it's not like he took pole, but
No.
considering, like, again, his route up to F2, it is very good to see him already be performing in the second round of the championship. And also, might I add, in a VAR, which is not always the best car on the grid.
No, but honestly, we are starting to see a couple of drivers like do different things with cars we have not imagined could get up there. Like, we'll speak about this a little later, but like Trident and the hands of Lawrence were
Yeah.
like really fast. So maybe we're gonna be a little bit more even with all of the teams this year.
Yes, definitely. Because like the only team that we have seen like absolutely nothing from yet is like, I'm sorry, but no surprise, AIX.
Yeah, I we have to talk about AIX in the sense that we the car is just usually at the back of the field.
Mm.
Like, especially we're talking about F2. F3 sometimes.
Yeah.
But I mean, in this generation of
Mm.
F2 car, we've not seen too much. Like, in the hands of some other people, sometimes it does get up to the front, but we're just at the moment they're trundling along at the back, and I hope they can sort out whatever they need to, because I'd love to see
Yes.
like a completely even field and everybody fighting for wins. But at the moment, that is not it.
No, because it is unfortunate because obviously F2 is supposed to be like an even playing ground, so
Yeah.
everyone has like equal chances of showing what they got so they can get to F1. But yeah, since Joshua Dirksen left AIX, like he was able to drag that AIX car up to places it did not belong. Now, since he's left, we have not seen anything from the team yet, but who knows what can happen. But yeah, you mentioned Lawrence Van Hoopen in his Trident. How has he dragged the Trident car, both in Australia up to such good positions, and also again here in Miami? Now only qualifying P9, but obviously for the reverse grid race, that is great starting from P2.
Exactly. Lawrence said, wait, 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 let me cook. Let me cook. I know how to unlock the potential in this car. And it was a pretty good weekend for him. But moving on to the reverse grid race that we were just talking about, the start was actually delayed by 10 minutes, but I actually don't mind when the starts are delayed in F2 because we usually get like a little bit because F2 races usually just like start, they just
Mhm.
throw you in. We don't get much of a build up. But when there's a delay, we get a bit of chatter from the commentators, and I like that bit of a build up and that excitement before the race starts.
Yes, it's so odd with F2 that and F3 as well, that usually the broadcast only starts 5 minutes before the formation lap. Like, give us some more time. Give us a little race build up. Like, we really love to see this.
Yeah.
But yeah, now we got it because it was delayed. Like, can we maybe just add that into every race? F1, whoever are making the broadcast. But yeah,
Yeah.
looking at the sprint grid, I will say Nikola Tsolov starting from P1 because you qualified P10. That is so well done considering the fact that Campos and him barely did any running in practice.
Exactly. Like, so impressive to see him in the top 10 in qualifying and then also, like, putting in that sweet P10 because we know for reverse grid rate, you're P1. So, like, he couldn't have done anything more. I think he did everything that he needed to do so that he could have a shot at some glory.
Exactly. Um, and then behind him, we of course had, as I already mentioned, Lorenz van Huben, and in P3, Oliver Goethe. And we have to start with Oliver Goethe because he did not have a good start. Like, he was the only one of the front runners that was just like, I can't do this. Dropped down to like P9, I think, at the start.
Yeah, it was really overall I don't think it was a weekend for him. Like we'll get on to what happened in race 2 with Ollie, but it just was not the greatest performance that he could have done this weekend. I will say, before we could even go for the formation lap, Kush's bad luck
Oh,
had
yes.
stricken. He couldn't get his car started and he had to be wheeled off the grid, and it was horrible.
It's really sad that when we see that this is still an issue that occurs pretty like regularly with these F2 cars, that sometimes just don't want to start. And like whenever the engine is gone, it's just gone. And also there must have been like some issue bigger than that with his car because obviously he got reeled back into the pit lane and was able to start from there. But like he was so far behind the field, even though I know he started pit lane, but like still didn't even like
Mm.
catch up to the field, and he also ended up DNFing. So definitely something not quite right with his car, and it's really not what you want to see when you know that he's starting pole position the day after.
Exactly, and you're thinking, okay, maybe it's fine because like he can get all his bad luck out in
Mm.
this race.
Yeah.
To some extent, that happened. But back to the beginning of race 1, Nikola Tsolov had such a good start. I feel like he's gotten really good at his starts. And let's remember, he's a rookie in this year, and he had such a great race.
Yes, I definitely think that it really has helped him out for sure that he had those couple of races at the end
Yeah,
of last season. Like he's definitely like coming as a rookie that's actually prepared. It was
yeah.
like with this team he did the couple of races with. So like he's a bit more embedded than some of the other rookies, but still nonetheless like super impressive to see that now, even though he didn't have the best of qualifying, his qualifying P10, he was still able to capitalize and actually keep the lead, even though it was an intense race, and it wasn't easy for him to keep the lead.
No. At one point, he did pull away from the field a little bit, and he left Joshua and Lawrence to fight it out
Mhm.
behind him, but they reeled him back in, and it was insane racing.
Absolutely insane. We had, like, pretty much, like, its top 4 pretty equally tied together at one point with, like, Tsolov, Lawrence Van Huben, Joshua Dirksen, and Nico Varone. Again, Varone really shining here. I know he didn't quite make it to the podium, but, like, I believe he ended P4. Such a solid race for him, and, like, really starting to show what he's made of. Will be interesting to see how he can build on that. But yeah, we had some close battling, especially first between Lawrence and Joshua. I like got kind of nervous at one point. I was actually really surprised at how well behaved everyone were, considering that they had not been racing for like so long. Like typically, you can expect a bit of chaos, especially at a new track they've never been to.
And a street circuit, like, the
Yeah.
walls are very, very
Mm.
close, but everyone was racing really neatly, the overtakes were being done really well, but we were seeing, like, someone if you overtake someone, it's not like they were gonna pull away necessarily, they would just come back at them, and we got a lot of places being swapped over and over again.
Yeah, it was so funny to see. Also super cool to see. But like the battle between Lawrence and Nikola for the lead of the race, both like super interesting and cool to see. Good seeing them battle, going back and forth. But like I have to mention the graphic popping up every time there was a
New
new
race.
race leader. I'm like, okay, I think we get it now. Like they're both been race leaders. Can we calm down with the graphic every single time?
Because they were swapping so often, I was like, "There's
Yeah,
no point in telling us there's a
no.
new race leader again because they're not gonna be there by the time you get the graphic up." Like,
Exactly, kind of a funny moment. But yeah, at the end of it, even though we literally got so close battling, it was Solov that came out on top, even though we literally had like a going 3 wide pretty much at the final lap between Nikola Tsolov, Lawrence Van Huben, and Alex Dunn, who had like quietly made his way up through the field, like kind of taking the approach of taking more care of his tires, I guess, because I feel like for a while he was just hanging back around P5, then up to P4, and then at the end, like in P3.
yeah, I will say, while this was happening, we did have a couple of people who did land up, like, retiring. They weren't for, like, any, like, crashes or that kind of sense. Like, we had Tristanopol Imtrupuzak, who had a bit of an issue. He dropped down and he DNF'd. Villa Gomez also retired after causing a brief yellow flag. The yellow flags decided to go out and in and out and in a couple times
Yeah.
throughout the race, and I was like, what is this for? Because you know when you see a yellow flag in F2, it's usually
Mm,
like carnage, but it tended to be for someone who was just having their own issue and trying to
mm.
like escape the race.
Yes. Also, I will say now we are in Miami. Of course, there was a lot of focus on Colton Hurts as well. Like the TV direction knew, like we need to show what he's doing, which is kind of unfortunate because yes, he was battling with people, so it was interesting to see. But like it wasn't for points paying position, so I feel
Yeah,
like kind of if it had been any other driver, we probably wouldn't have panned back to him so many
yeah.
times. And also, it got kind of sad watching it because his racing in F2 is still, I have to say, it still looks kind of clumsy whenever
Mm.
he's wheel to wheel with other drivers. And it did end up him going backwards, basically, with like the moves he was trying to make. Ended up going back a couple of places from where he started the race.
Yeah, it was a bit unfortunate. I feel like he just needs to kind of get to grips with how
Mm,
we race in F2 because it is different to other racing. Like, I mean, he's probably taking some of his experience with him from IndyCar, but this is a totally different ball game. And it was like, let's not show this because it's not giving him a good look. Like
mm.
let him learn without like the eyes of the entire world and all of America on him. So it was a little bit sad for him. But you know what? I'm sure he was learning in every mistake that he made.
Yes, definitely. We have to consider that. And also, like, he had kind of a similar weekend to what he had in Australia, where his sprint race was kind of clumsy, not really going his way. But then he took whatever he got from the sprint race going into the feature race and actually improved. And he got up
Yeah.
to the points for the feature race, both in Australia and now in Miami again. So it's not like he's not horrible. It's just also not to the level that some people might have expected. Also, I will have to say, I think Cadillac low-key like underestimated the F2 grid. Like I just have a feeling they maybe have thought that putting him into high tech, which is like a good team. Obviously, Luke Browning was driving for them last year and like was challenging for the championship. I think that's kind of what they envisioned for Coulson as well, and he's just not quite at that point yet.
Yes, exactly. I do think there's so many expectations on him, and I really hope he, as you say, he was learning from it, from the sprint to the feature. So I hope he keeps with this momentum. I will say the last lap of this race
Yeah.
was insane. Like
Oh,
I was holding my breath because I
yeah.
didn't know who was going to win the race.
No, like usually when I watch the races, like I'm able to take notes here for the race review and stuff. Like I could not look down at my phone to take notes. Like I was like, what is happening? I couldn't take my eyes off because you would miss something. So definitely so cool to see them
Mm.
racing so closely, especially as the top three, which we've already mentioned. And like really any of those three drivers could have come out on top. Like it was so close.
I saw a lot of people mention that this is actually like their favorite F2 race that they've
Mhm.
watched, which I could agree with. Like we had some insane racing. And I also saw a lot of people being like, oh, I've seen so many people talking about F2 this weekend. Like maybe I should start watching it. Yes, you should.
Yes.
Please do. So I do think that them coming over to Miami has really helped with the image of F2 and getting a lot more eyes on it on people who wouldn't necessarily have watched it. But in the end, we landed up getting Nikola Tsolov in P1, Lawrence Van Hoopen in P2, and Alex in P3.
Yes, very well deserved podium in the end. And I'm still kind of sad that Nico Varone never quite made it up to the podium, but I'm sure like it's coming for him. We'll
Yeah.
get there at some point in the season. And also, yeah, to end off the points paying positions, we also had Joshua Dirksen down in P5. Then Martinez, then Sean, who like he was very close with Alex Dunn at one point, so
Yes.
also he could have gotten more, but like still like okay sprint, like pretty solid. And then Gabriele Minì in P7, and then Dino Beganovic taking the last point in P8.
Yes, I will say the sprint was probably Rodin's best day
Yeah.
this weekend because when we get into the feature race, someone cursed Rodin as well.
Yeah, well, I guess we should start talking about that actually, baby, because I just have to get out all my anger of how I've managed to curse. Obviously, I only take blame for Martinius. Somehow it just carried on to Dunn as well. Because yeah, obviously because talking about Martinius, we have to talk about what happened before the formation app even happened. And that is of course that his mechanics were not off the track when they were supposed to, which obviously is a starting procedure infringement, which gave Martinius then a stop and go penalty, which is just so annoying because yes, the team did a mistake and then
Yeah.
Martinius has to pay for it, which should never happen. And I think the team told Martinius over the radio it was because they were too late with like securing like his wheels probably. So also if they hadn't done that, yes, then he also couldn't go racing. So like
Yeah.
maybe it was the better alternative, making sure everything was right and then leaving the track. But still like things that never should happen.
No, we don't want to see an F2 wheel go flying off, which we've
No.
seen in the past.
Yeah,
We've got trauma from that, okay.
we do.
But it is like, oh, it's just, it sucks that a procedural from the team, like
Mhm.
their fault, lands up impacting heavily on Martinez's race.
Yeah, and also another thing that happened before the race even had started was also Roman Belinsky was out of the race, going to the grid, not even making it to the grid for formation lap. But he had issues with his car already early in the weekend, so maybe it
Yeah.
was some gremlins from that appearing again. Very much not his weekend either.
No, definitely not. And The sprint race was completely dry, but the feature race, I'm sorry, I don't know how they saw it. They did do the formation laps behind the safety car, and then,
Yeah.
it's quite bad. Um, it wasn't, like, actively raining, but I think the water was just standing
Mm.
still on the circuit. So, like, Alex Dunn was like, "It's actually gonna be okay, like, once we get" I don't know why I put a mic up to my
Talking into the mic
it's
over the
actually
radio.
yeah. Alex Dunn has a mic apparently, but he was saying it's actually gonna be okay, like, once they start going, they're gonna create, like, a bit of a dry line. But the spray, I don't know how to see anything. Like, I would not be able to see the car in front of me.
No, it was actually insane. Also, when you see the graphic pop up that says like formation lap with like an S in brackets, so formation laps behind safety car, you know it's gonna be
Yeah,
bad. That it's not just one formation lap. We're actually
no.
gonna get multiple behind the safety car. I was very surprised that they were bold enough to make the decision of making it a standing start. Like I was so sure we would at least get a rolling start, but no, we got the chaos of the standing start in this weather. Because like at one point I wasn't even sure if like the race would be cancelled. Like that I saw a lot of people like questioning if the race would even happen. Like imagine if it had been cancelled after all the hard work to get to Miami. Luckily it wasn't that bad. And also the
Yeah.
conditions were good enough to get a standing start. It wasn't like it was super dangerous and we had a red flag immediately. Like nothing like that. But still, seeing the pictures from like at home, you could barely see cars coming through the spray, so I'm happy I'm not the driver driving through that.
Exactly, and they do know that these drivers are majority of them are pretty experienced driving in the wet, so they know that they can trust them when the conditions aren't dangerous, even though, the visibility isn't the best, that they can still race
Yeah.
safely, and they know how to. I will say Rafa Kamara was probably hoping it was gonna be a rolling start because the standing start, he had such a bad start, but let's remember, he's a rookie, right? And he did not do any of the races last year, like other
No.
drivers stepped in. So he's literally coming into this, and this is his first time racing at this circuit, which is for a lot of other people, but also in the wet in an F2 car. He's never done that before. So, you know what? I'll let it slide.
Yes, it is important to note that all the rookies in the series this year, this is their first time in the wet in the F2 car. And like every car is different in the wet. So there
Yeah.
was definitely like learning as you go for all of them. But yeah, when we got the start, it was so annoying to see Marcinho Stanchon having a good start, passing Rafa for P2, knowing that he has to go to the pits anyway. So like it won't even matter. But Kushmaini at the start, he was just chilling out front. Like he was just like, let the chaos happen behind me. I'm just
Yeah.
gonna go. Because the first chaos obviously already came in turn one when Nikola Tsolov, first of all, our championship leader at this point, and our race winner from the day before, got spun around by Intrapurasek, unfortunately. So that was the end of his race and a 10-second penalty for Intrapurasek for causing a collision.
It was a really up and down weekend for Nicola. Like he
Yeah.
started low with practice and then, built up a little bit in quali, got the win in the sprint and got completely knocked out. Like he got one corner into the feature and he was just completely taken out.
It is so annoying and frustrating in moments like this, especially like when it's a wet race, because you know, like literally anything could happen, and then you're just taken out of it before anything good could even really happen. And I was questioning why they didn't just call the safety car earlier, because I know F2 has this thing, which I was like different to F1, so I don't get
Yeah.
what the race control is like, because like when we have an F1, when they like wait with calling a safety car, the commentators are always like, oh, why didn't they just call it? Like, we can see it's going to be a safety car. In F2, they have the habit of like really drawing it out to the last possible moment right before the drivers get to the part where the car is struck and it like has to be removed. So we went a long time before we got the safety car. And of course, they waited so long that when the race control said every car needs to go through the pit lane, the front running cars didn't get the message because we had Kushmaini and Rafa Kamara going on across, like, not through the pit lane, just going the normal way. And Martinez, who wanted to do his stop and go penalty, who were like told we're gonna pit for that, couldn't do it obviously because we had the safety car.
Yeah, really bad luck again for Martinez, and then also the stupid thing with F2, like, I just don't understand why they do it. They just need to be a little bit more on it because they could solve a lot of issues that happened. And then we also got this, like, incident noted with Kush and Rafa, and it was like, "Ooh, it's gonna be investigated after the race." So I was really stressed that if any of them performed well, like, maybe they would get it taken away, but they actually just got a bit of a reprimand. And I was happy because I was like, if
Yeah.
they get like
No.
penalties because of the race control, not telling them in time, like it's
Yeah.
so unfair.
Yes, it was really a mess because I was so sure they were like gonna get a penalty because like that is what I don't get now. The race control and stewards and whatnot have gotten more lenient with time because I like
Yeah,
vividly remember a race in F2 where Dennis Hauger was leading the race and they were like told go through the pit lane and like he didn't get the message at time or like first it was to pit lane and then it was like oh don't do it anyway. Anyway, the point is he didn't do what race control wanted him to do because he was leading the race
yeah,
and he ended up getting a penalty that like took away the win from him. So I'm like at least they are more lenient now, which is like
yeah.
good, but then it's also not quite consistent. But I'm happy that they just went, you know what, everyone just gets away with whatever they've done. Because there were a lot of drivers that were under investigation for a lot of different things. And they were all like, oh, you know what, it's fine. It was a crazy race, we'll let it slide.
Exactly. The safety car ended on lap 4 and they got going again. But pretty much as soon as they got going, Ollie Goethe, this
Yeah.
is where his bad weekend happened. He lost the car going onto the main straight, completely out of control, and just smashed into the barriers.
Yes, honestly, I was so surprised when I saw it. Like just out of nowhere, as like solo incident, luckily, because no one were involved in it. It wasn't Ollie's weekend, apparently.
Yeah.
So like he was immediately obviously out of the race then. Which, yeah, then gave us, first of all, just a yellow flag. So, Martinez, obviously, when the restart was happening, he was just like, I'm going to the pits now. I'm doing my stop and go penalty. I'm not risking it, which was good because obviously, because of what happened with Ollie Goethe, we got a virtual safety car.
Yes. Which it did take a little while for them to
Mm.
throw that virtual safety car as well. Like, we saw drivers going down the main straight and there was debris there, and then
Yeah,
they called the virtual safety car. So, like,
mm,
again, like, it was almost like they were watching the feed with us, saw the debris and went,
literally.
shit, I need to call the virtual safety car.
Yes, like I get it. It was terrible conditions. It must have been hard to see that there were debris on the track. But then again, like a car has literally just crashed into a wall and then
Yeah.
moved on. Surely there will be some debris on the track. But the timing definitely seemed like they saw when the drivers came back around and like ran over it.
Exactly. And we did get a couple laps after that ended, which was good, because it was a bit of a stop-starty race with everything that was happening. But we did see Dino start to fly
Yeah.
up the grid. Like, Dino was on a mission to get himself because he didn't have the best qualifying, and he was like, I am going to make my way up the grid. Do not count me out.
No, Dino was like the most unfortunate driver because you never want to be the driver who qualifies P11.
No.
Like, had he been one position higher up, he would have started from reverse grid pole position. So, like, it is so annoying qualifying P11, but it was so positive to see him being able to make his way up through the field because, like, he was definitely flying. There were a couple of moments where, like, the commentators were, I'm not sure he meant to go for a pass there, but, like, because of the slippery conditions, it just kind of happened, and it worked for him, and, like, so well done, Dino.
Exactly. Like, yes, he may not have meant to do it, but he executed it perfectly and
Yeah,
everybody was safe. So, like, he was big brain and knew stuff that we didn't know. Like, you
yeah,
can't usually overtake there. Dino says I can.
exactly. But yeah, we had a lot of like intense battling around this time. Also, like I had my heart beating for Invicta. Like Rafa and Joshua were like glued together. I was just waiting for that to end badly. Luckily, it didn't. Like everything was fine, and Rafa was able to keep Joshua behind him. But yeah, then our next big incident, I feel like we can say, is that Don went off track. And like we saw it in live pictures that he obviously outbraked himself or something. It
Yeah.
was bad conditions. So like makes sense. But then we obviously had yellow flag and we're like, oh, didn't he like get back to the track? Then we see when he tried to rejoin the track, he just went straight into the barrier.
And I will say he was on, like, that part of the circuit, like, if you're offline,
Yeah.
you're on the paint. It's
Mm.
very, very slippery, and I think he just misjudged it and just went, boop, straight into the barriers. And that was it for him. And
Yeah.
Rodin's bad luck continued.
Honestly, I was so surprised seeing Don being out again. Like he has made his own bad luck in Australia,
Yeah.
and then that's carried on to Miami. Maybe it's like some bad karma finally hitting him because like this time, at least it was only himself he took out. So like there is that. It was a solo incident, but that obviously then triggered the safety car.
Yeah.
And then everyone are like, we are gonna pit now because we need to get the mandatory pit stop out of the way. And like absolute chaos ensues in the pit lane.
It was. Like, Villa Gomez got in, like, even before the safety car had been called. But then he
Mm.
was in the pits when the safety car was called, and he had, like, perfect timing,
Yeah,
and then had the worst pit stop of his life. Like, pit stop was kind of okay, but then he got going, then he lost the car, then he was in the grid box of the car in front of him. They were frantically trying to get him out.
yeah,
Like, pit stops in F2, especially in the wet and, like, in the chaos, oh
yeah.
my god, they're insane.
There we are. And yeah, I say pretty much everyone pitted. Now there of course were a couple of drivers that decided to like gamble on there maybe being a safety car later on or like something that they could like gain something from staying out. So we had new leaders on track. Who didn't pit, being Dirksen, Herta, and Bennett staying out. Also, like Stenshon stayed out, but like he had
Yeah.
already been through the pits. Like he needed to try to do something different. But other than them, everyone pitted and like got their stop out of the way. And also in the pit lane, crucially for Invicta and Rafa Camara, they managed to jump Kushmaini in the pits. So Rafa came out as the virtual leader of the race instead of Kush.
Yes, it was very important for them because a lot of other stuff happened in the pit lane with a lot of unsafe releases. There were
Yeah.
cars that were going straight in front of other cars,
Mm.
and it was a lot happening. But for Invicta, I think they were very smooth with how they did. And also, they only pitted Rafa, so you could kind of tell they were like, because he was the leading car, he gets the first choice of when to pit, so he got it.
That kind of settled what was going to happen for the rest of the race, that he got that lead because we kind of didn't see much of Kush after that. Like he wasn't really in the battle, which is very unfortunate because up until this point, he had just like casually been leading the whole race and like
Yeah.
not being challenged at all from behind. So unfortunate for him that those are just things that happen. Also like where you're placed in the pit lane also plays into it, obviously before how many other drivers you have to wait passing you and stuff like that. And I'm surprised, honestly, because we talk about unsafe releases, that no one actually got a penalty
Yeah.
for an unsafe release. Because we had like some borderline unsafe releases.
Yeah, and so many people were noted as well, but we actually
Yeah.
didn't end up getting anything from it, which, you know, and it wasn't technically an unsafe release if the race control didn't deem it to be. But because of all this chaos that happened throughout the race, we usually have like laps. That's how we count our races in F2, but it went down to a timed race because of this, because we had been so long with all of these safety cars.
Yes, so they have to go on to the time limit. So when the restart happened after the safety car, we had 24 minutes back of the race. Now, I will say I understand why we have the time limit. Also, it stresses me out because when we got to the end of the race, I had a moment where I was like, is this the end? Or like, no, we have another lap. So like very stressful. But yeah, we had 24 minutes left. Again, now on track, it was the drivers who didn't pit, so like they were on old wet tires with
Yeah.
drivers behind them on obviously brand new wet tires. So we had Joshua starting the race. He had a really good restart. Definitely dropped Herta immediately.
Yeah.
Herta and Bennett, who stayed out, were struggling slightly more. And then immediately, pretty much also at the restart, we had Dino virtually getting P2 because he passed Kushmini. So like now we are starting to form like what is actually going to be ending up being the podium with like we're having virtually Rafa P1 and Dino P2. But then we have to get to the incident that
Yeah.
I am again, I'm taking blame for this. Because Martinius Stenshorn was of course involved in an incident. Like the racing gods were like, you didn't have a bad enough race already? Like, okay,
Mm.
so we gave you a stop and go penalty. That is not enough. You have to be
Yeah.
taken out of the race. So
Exactly.
yeah, very, very unfortunate moment. But now we have been talking so good about Nico Verone, and he had a great weekend. But this is the point where it all came undone because he did end up spinning Martinez around. So they were having a crash together. And then completely, at no fault of his own, Van Huven was like the innocent third party that also just casually got taken out. So we had Martinez, Verone, and Van Huven all taken out in one turn. And can we not have Martinez be this curse? Like, this is not funny anymore.
No. Like, Lawrence had nowhere to go. His like road was completely blocked by these cars. And when Martinez came over the radio and started speaking, he sounded so dejected. And
Yeah.
I was just like, you don't even know that you've been cursed, but you've been cursed from the Road to Glory podcast. And we're so sorry for that.
Yeah, we need to sage him and the car and me because
Yeah.
there clearly is an issue here. Because like you could not make this up. Like I was even scared of like who I was going to predict for the season. Like I had a moment of thinking, should I just pick someone I don't particularly like? But I was like, no, I'm not superstitious. I'm going for the driver I think is going to win. Like how do you cannot write this, you cannot make this up. So the driver I pick, first of all, gets taken out from the lead in Australia, could have won that race, is taken out. Then we get to Miami. Obviously, there's the issue in qualifying we have talked about. And then we have his team messing up his starting procedure. And then I'm also, of course, ending up being taken out. Like, how is this even happening?
I don't like someone needs to study your black magic. Can you actually like curse, I don't know, somebody else
Mm.
that is not fighting for this championship because you're taking away Martinez's ability to race.
We need to like redo our season predictions just so we can get Martinez clear of this because like has been proven that if I just make a new prediction, it will change. Because like
Yeah.
for the OG listeners of the podcast, you will know that last season I predicted Gabriele and Minì for the championship. Completely cursed season because I did that. Now I've predicted Martinez. So Minnie is free. My man is finally free. He's literally like P2 in the championship or something now. Like I
Yeah.
am living that he is free of the curse now.
At least your curse goes away. Like there is
Yeah,
hope for Martinez in the future.
exactly. Not this season. We'll
No.
try. We'll try and like get it away. But like honestly, how does this even happen? I don't know. But obviously Nico Vavron was the one to blame. Still, it is terrible conditions in the wet, so these things happen, but he did end up getting a 10-second time penalty for causing a collision.
Yes, which I assume will be converted to a grid drop
Yeah.
because he obviously did not finish
Mhm.
the race, so he could not have that added to his time.
No. And yes, obviously that caused the safety car. Like goes without saying.
Yes.
So we did have the top 3 runners who didn't pit previously go to the pits. Now this strategy of staying out definitely didn't end up working for them, but still they had to pit at some point. So they decided, you know what, we might as well do it under this new safety car. And yeah, what I was about to say, what have I even written down? I don't know. Because there's something I feel like this is the point where things get so chaotic.
Mm.
I'm like, what is even happening? Because I also have maybe before the safety car was actually called, I think this happened. We had Noel Leon making a spicy overtake for
Ooh,
P3.
I
And
like how you did
it
spicy.
was spicy, let me say.
Noel, this was Noel's race to prove because
Yeah.
he obviously, again, didn't have the best quality.
Mm.
Started P13 and he was making moves.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, there were some people in front of him who had some misfortune, but Noel was like, I will capitalize on
Yeah.
this and I will make my way up the grid.
Yes, because from starting P13, I'm pretty sure, because that was where he qualified. Like going up to being momentarily P3 is like a great race. And it really shows that even though he literally got no practice and went straight into qualifying, he still was able to salvage something in the race, and especially in the feature race. Now, he didn't get to keep the P3, but we had a moment of living the dream. And I'm not mad about what happened because now obviously then the safety car was called for the incident we just talked about. But when we had the safety car restart, we still had 16 minutes to go. And I could feel I cannot take the pressure of
No.
16 more minutes of this chaos. And oh, did we get chaos? Because this is the point where we got the whole Rafa Dino battle between them. Like they were so close. Rafa went off track at one point, still somehow managed to keep the lead. And like I don't even know what I was seeing. Like I was stressed out.
Yes, they are not teammates, right? They're both drive for different teams, but they are both Ferrari juniors.
Yeah.
And I just knew that the Ferrari Junior Academy were holding their breath there, like,
Uh,
please, we can have both of
uh,
you on the podium. Like, let's be safe here.
yes, and also because when they were battling so closely, that meant that we also had Noel Leon right behind them, like breathing down their necks, just waiting for his moment. And Minnie was also there in P4. So like things got very, very close. And like all other places at the track, we of course had Kian Shields spinning on his own. And like this moment, I had to question because I feel like the commentators were also confused about it. He might have had two separate spins, but like they weren't sure. Like what even is Kian Shields doing right now?
Yeah, because we saw a replay of a spin and then we saw a
Mm.
replay of another spin. We weren't sure if it was two different angles of the same spin or he spun twice, but he caused a VSC and then a full safety car. And I just think the conditions were not the greatest for him and he lost the car.
Yeah, honestly, not surprised because we already talked about AIX being terrible, and also like even though when Kian Shields had Joshua Dirksen as his teammate, Joshua was able to like get a lot out of the car sometimes. Kian has yet to show anything. Let's put
Yes.
it that way.
Well, I will say at this point,
Mm,
half the grid are out. Like
yeah.
half the grid are gone. The fallen soldiers of the Miami feature race.
Yeah.
Let's take a moment of time to think about them and we can move on.
Yes, we actually need like I feel like whenever we have a very chaotic F2 race where a lot of people are DNFing, we need a whole ceremony after the race with like
Yeah.
Hunger Games style, of, like the fallen tributes. Like that is what we need. Can we add that to the chaotic F2 races?
Exactly. And more chaos was about to ensue because we had John Bennett deciding to gamble
Yeah,
and go in for slicks, which did not work out.
no,
That man had absolutely zero grip. And I mean, like, he had nothing to lose. He was right at the back. It was
yeah.
okay for him to gamble. But I was so scared we were going to get him in the wall because he could not control that car.
No, it was good that he decided to do it during the safety car because
Yeah.
like at least we had reduced speeds, so that
Yeah.
helped. But I think everyone could see like the moment he went out on slicks that was the wrong decision, and obviously after also having a little spin, at least he kept the engine. Well done on that. He was like over the radio like I need to come back in, like we need to change to wets because otherwise we will have a big shunt here. So like definitely the right decision too, even though it seems silly. Then go back to the pits, take the consequences of having gone through slicks, and then go back to the reds again.
Yeah, at least he could he had time to go and get the wets before the safety car was in again.
Yeah.
But now we're getting to the spicy end of this race where
Yeah.
I was holding my breath again because, again, I didn't know who was going to win the race
Uh,
because we had Dino and Rafa both going wide at one point, which
uh,
brought Minnie, who was right behind them, into the battle. And then Rafa went wide, Minnie went up, Dino was in the lead, and I was like, I
yeah.
literally like, hopefully these three will be on the podium, but I just don't know what position they will be in.
No, honestly, it was so stressful because when the safety car ended, we knew on the clock like there's 6 minutes left. So like we know like this is the final showdown. Also like right before the safety car came out, we had Minnie going past Noli, and I didn't even like notice when that happened. But happy to see that. I was like very much just I want this top three in like whatever order. Like I'm fine. Obviously I was very happy with the end result of
Yes.
Minnie ending up on top. But like really any one of those three could have won the race. It was so great seeing a race like this where it's so close. I know that safety cars helped because obviously that really brings the field together. But either way, I feel like we would still have gotten such a close battle on the final laps between these three drivers. Now, I was just scared that it was gonna end wrong because, like, we need to remember it was still a red track. Like, there were moments where we were so close to them just taking each other out.
The racing was so close. And again, besides like a couple of moments where we did get that little bit of a pile up with three cars, overall, they were very safe and we didn't
Yeah.
get anyone taking each other out on a move or something like that. So I was really impressed with the car control that they had on a circuit that they don't really know.
Yeah, it really shows the talent of like these drivers, especially these three drivers who ended up on the podium. Because like,
Yes.
had it been again, obviously, I'm not saying that it's unthinkable that these three drivers could have crashed, but like often, have we seen some other drivers being involved? It could have been very likely that there was
Yeah.
someone that didn't leave enough space for the other person, especially in these conditions. So very, very talented drivers driving super well. Again, let's just say on a track they've never been on, and it's literally so wet. So,
Yeah.
well done to everyone, honestly. Every single one of them deserved the result they got. And yeah, I was just ecstatic when we got Minnie's first win in F2 finally.
I like last year was a write-off season for him. We just
Yeah.
ignore it. Like this is the performance that we have expected from him, coming from almost winning the F3
Yeah.
title, being so close to it. This is the Mini that we know and love and remember. And it was a great day for Italian motorsports.
Yeah.
And we also had Dino in P2 and Rafa in P3. So the Ferrari Junior Academy were very happy. And no Leon in P4. At least he kept that spot. I would have loved a null podium, but again, I'm happy with the P4. Kush in P5, he was kind of just like, he kind of, once he got past for the lead, I feel like it was good for him to keep P5. And we had Miata in P6, which I feel like I didn't see him the
No.
entire race. He was silent. He was just going around doing his thing, but he landed up making it up to P6. We had Mary Boyer in P7 with Sebastian Montoya in P9. So we got double Prema points, which is unheard of lately.
Yes, we're all cheered at that Prema double points. Like that is a point we have come to, which is kind of sad because like we're
Yeah.
used to fighting for wins and podiums. Now we are apparently just fighting for points, being very low down in the championship. But I'll still take it. Also, Joshua Dirksen somehow ended up down in P10. He got slightly screwed over, obviously, with staying out, like taking
Yeah.
that strategy. So that was obviously the wrong call because he had been so close to Rafa the whole race up until that point when most of the grid decided to pit. So that was unfortunate for him.
Colton got points in
Yeah.
P8, which is good for him. I know we did mention that. But yeah, other than that, I feel like, whew, finally, the
Yeah.
race with the chaos was over. Like, that was the most intense race that I've watched in a while for F2. I mean, we've had one race before this, but
Mm.
you know what I mean. Like,
Yeah.
it was insane. And if that has any little bit of what's gonna happen
Yeah.
in Canada, like, I cannot wait for it.
No, I really feel like this weekend was honestly so, so great for F2 because like it had the best of both worlds. 'Cause like we had the sprint race where everything was dry and like no safety cars, like really just good racing without like the chaos that we can sometimes get in F2.
Yeah.
And we also had the complete rain safety car chaos race. So we had like a bit for everyone here, which was just like ultimately such a great weekend.
Yeah, and it was actually showing, like, what F2 is about, like, look at all of the overtakes we can get.
Yeah.
I will say one thing that I did see people talking about is it looked like there weren't that many people at the track actually
Yeah.
watching the action, but because F2 was added at such a late edition, I think it started as some of the gates opened, so people couldn't get there in time. I'm not sure if it was for both races, because also it was moved forward with everything that happened with the weather, with F1, and everything was moved forward. But I do think overall it was a really good showing of what F2 is capable of bringing and the level of racing that we get and the entertainment value. Like, if you
Mm.
don't watch F2, what are you doing?
Yes, literally everyone should watch F2. Like it's such good racing. Whenever people are complaining about whatever is going on in F1 and the new regulations, just watch F2. Like obviously watch F1 as well, but like if
Yeah.
you really want that more pure racing that a lot of people are asking for, watch F2. Honestly, it's such a great championship. And it really showed here. And now I'm just sad that we have to wait 3 weeks until they're back in Canada. But oh my, I'm just really looking forward to that because it's gonna be absolutely incredible. Now, before we completely end off this episode, I feel like we have to talk about the standings. Now,
Yes.
we've had 2 rounds of the championship, so obviously very early days still, even though it has been a while since the season started. But I want to mention how on earth has Nikola Tsolov managed to actually still be championship leader at this point?
Some witchcraft, because he just
Yeah.
had like the most awful weekend, but he was like, no, I'm still going to keep the lead.
Yeah.
I mean, definitely the sprint race helped him do
Yeah.
that, but it is quite surprising that he still managed to keep on that lead, and it'll be interesting to see if he still can. Hopefully, has a bit of a better weekend, in Montreal.
Yes, because it is super close at the top because just 1 point behind Nikola Solov, we have kind of a split P2 technically.
Yeah.
Now, on the graphic I'm looking at, we have Gabriele and Minì listed at P2 and Rafa Camara as P3, both on 34 points, like just 1 point behind the lead. So, really, anything can happen there. Also, Lawrence van Hupen is somehow still P4, actually only 9 points behind the lead. Very exciting to see how he continues on throughout the season.
The championship is heating up, and it's
Yeah.
going to be very exciting to see how this pans out, because I mean, I know we've predicted who we think, but I really could not predict how it's going to go. Like, if you asked me at the beginning of the season, do you think Lawrence Van Hoopen would be in P4? Nothing against Lawrence, he's an incredible
No.
driver, but we know Trident in F2 is just usually not the best, and just seeing him up there makes me so happy. And I just like the wait for the next race is going to be torture, but at least it's not as long as the wait that we had before. And when we get to Canada, we're going to have F1 Academy back as well. So there is so much to look forward to in the next race.
Yes, honestly, I just cannot wait. We're gonna have a packed schedule. I'm already thinking about how we're gonna do a race review for both F2 and F1 Academy. Because like we have been speaking for an hour just about this Miami weekend for F2. We might have to split those two up.
Yeah.
We'll have to wait and see on that.
Yeah, you will know what we do. So make sure you follow us on all of our socials, because we'll let you know what episodes are happening. And don't think, oh my gosh, F2, F1 Academy, F3, they're not happening for a while. We will still be here every single week. You'll be getting an episode from us. So make sure to stay tuned. We have some exciting episodes planned for the future. So you're just going to have to wait, stick around for them, because they are definitely coming.
Yes, so we will be here every single Wednesday. So we hope to see you again next week. Bye.
Bye.